what's up? This is Patrick. Welcome to episode 17 of the Double ETF podcast, Everything Except the Football. I hope you guys are doing great. Today we are doing things a little differently. Today's guest is Josh Fitzgerald, who's been here twice before. And this time we are focusing on one specific event, his trip to Tanzania about 10 years ago. The original recording was longer, but I ran out of time editing, so I had to split this into a few sections. So this is part one. Part two should be available in the upcoming weeks. And that's also why it will sound like this episode is ending abruptly. What else? Oh yeah, we received a donation from Kevin Wench this time. Thank you very much. It is really appreciated. So if you want to be awesome like Kevin and Carly before him, you can go to paypal.me/EETFpod and do what you feel is right. Or you can just leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to reach us, you can do so on Twitter at EETFpod, or you can drop us a line, an email at eetfpodcast@gmail.com. So, without further ado, here is my third conversation with Josh Fitzgerald. Thanks. All right, so back on the show for the third time, Josh Fitzgerald. Hi, Josh, how are you?
That's me. Hi, third time's the charm.
Yes. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. I'm hoping that people are not seeing my name show up in the feed again and groaning and rolling their eyes. How come he's back on?
No, I'm not worried. Always a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Thanks.
I was looking forward to this.
Awesome. So the main reason for your return is you mentioned something on Twitter maybe a few weeks ago. You mentioned in passing that you taught English as a second language in Tanzania. And I was like, dude, you've been on the show twice and you've never mentioned it before. So you got
I'm just full of secrets.
You are, apparently. So, oh God, I got so many questions. But okay, so let's start with the basics. Which year was that?
This was in 2011.
Okay. And it was for 1 year.
It was actually half a year. It was like a 6-month thing. Yeah.
Okay. 2011. Okay, so it was in Tanzania. It's in Africa, about opposite Madagascar.
It's kind of, well, it's actually a little bit more like towards the south. So if you're looking at Africa, it's on the west coast, kind of like you said, it's actually pretty close to Madagascar and it's right on the coastline. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at, so it's kind of like, okay, if you're going south, there's Ethiopia, underneath that is Kenya, and then underneath that is Tanzania. And then to the east, I think is, I want to say Uganda. I think it's, I haven't looked at a map and I should have been more prepared with that. But I know at least like Kenya and Ethiopia are right above it, are north of it.
Okay.
Because we actually flew into Kenya to get there, flew into Nairobi to get there. And then we kind of spent a little time there and then we drove down to the site, to the school we were going to be at.
Okay, so you flew from Buffalo to Nairobi?
No, it was from New York City, from JFK. Okay. It's funny, this whole trip I used as an excuse at the time to kind of just travel everywhere. So I took like a week before I left and I went and visited family in Jersey, Connecticut, and right outside of New York City, like right before I left, right before I flew out, which was fun because I hadn't really been to a lot of those places and I hadn't seen that family in a while. Mm-hmm. And took the train out there. It was fun. And it was actually the first and only time I was ever in New York City. And I spent the day there by myself. I toured New York City all by myself because my cousin was going to take me. And she's like, oh, actually, I got called into work tomorrow. So just here, take this bus, go here, and then just go by yourself. Okay.
Okay.
I did that.
He
it was
ditched
fun.
You right there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, that sucks.
It wasn't that bad though. I don't mind doing stuff stag like that.
Okay.
Because you kind of can just do what you want. And
yeah, that's true. You can plan things the way you want. So,
right.
2011. So you were done with school by that time?
I was actually in grad school. It was like the last thing I needed to finish my degree. And it was part of like the program, like a college program.
Okay.
And it counted as, if you're in education, how you have to do like student teaching, where you get like, like the last thing you do before you get your degrees, you actually have to do it and then you get graded on it and whatnot. That's what it counted as, but it was like a special program for people who were like ESL focused. It wasn't. It's funny because they didn't really advertise the program at all in my school that I was at. The only reason I knew that it even existed is because I knew the one person before me who had done it and was like, it's an amazing experience, and they don't really advertise, and you should look into it, and these are the people you have to talk to. Because the school that I went to, it was an exchange program between my school, which was in Rochester, New York, and I have to kind of set the stage a little bit.
Sure.
The school that I taught at was a Catholic all-girls school in Tanzania, and it was started by a priest from Rochester, New York in like the early 70s. He had been living in Tanzania since like the 60s, and he had gone to the college that I went to.
Okay.
And so he kind of knew people and started an exchange program to send 2 of the nuns that he worked with over to my school to get their teaching certificate, and kind of in exchange sending a student or 2 from the college over to his school in Tanzania to teach. So it's kind of a win-win situation. So that's how that kind of got going. And, I had to fill out all these applications and, get a psychological exam and all that stuff before they decided. It was me and one other girl who ended up going. And so that's sort of how I decided that I wanted to do it.
So did the girl and you do it at the same time?
Yep. We were there together. We roomed together, the whole 9 yards. Yep.
Okay.
And I had known her for a while. She had been a friend of mine before that. So it wasn't like a total stranger, which was good.
Yeah.
And I still hang out with her. I still, like, right before actually the last person that I hung out with in person before shutdown was her.
Oh, okay.
Before COVID. So like we still keep in touch and everything like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just the 2 of us. And thankfully for the most part, we were kind of on the same wavelength as far as, what we wanted to do and things like that. She was a little bit more of a daredevil than I was, but for the most part, it worked out fine.
Okay, nice. Yeah, because I guess if you had been there 100% on your own, it would have been just the culture shock. It would have been quite something.
Yeah, it's 50-50 because there were certain things that I think I would have been able to do easier by myself, but there are certain things that would have been a lot harder if I were by myself.
Do you have examples of what would have been easier on your own and vice versa?
I think on my own, without getting too they didn't want to do that, not like finger wagging, but I think more, it was because I kind of made a comment before, she was a little bit more of a daredevil than I was. She was very resistant to having people from the community kind of show her around. She kind of wanted to do it all by herself. Whereas I was more like, we should really have people with us to show us around. It's probably safer. They know what they're doing. I think had I been by myself, I might have been more inclined to take people up on that offer a little bit more. Okay. And maybe as a result, maybe made more lasting friendships there. Mm-hmm. With the people who live there, because I there's only like one person that I still keep in contact with. That's probably, I would say that's the biggest thing, probably the only thing really. And something that would have been harder is just simply just being so far away, like on the other side of the world, just by myself, would have been just mentally taxing. I think emotionally taxing, because it was like the first couple weeks was just mentally very, 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 very difficult. You're dealing with jet lag, really significant jet lag. You're dealing with, not only just like, you just finished a 16-hour flight, which in and of itself is incredibly demanding.
So that's from New York to Nairobi.
New York to, we flew, New York to, we had a layover in Istanbul. And then from there, we flew south. So it's almost like you're making like an upside down L.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so from there, I think it was like 7 hours to Nairobi.
Probably, yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Time was mush at the time after all that. So I don't really remember specifically, but that would have been, but like the first couple weeks of just that adjustment period was very challenging. And also too, like the cultural 180. There were no there really weren't any comforts. I mean, the room and board that we had by Tanzania standards were luxurious. I mean, I had my own bedroom. I mean, it was Spartan as far as we had a bedroom, bring your own mosquito net.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. A non-functioning bathtub.
Jesus.
But I mean, we had a little cabin. So like the way that the campus was set up, it was really like it was a high school, but it was really set up like a college campus. And there was a little cottage that the guests stayed in. That's where the two of us were.
Okay.
And it was, it was kind of ramshackle, but I mean, by their standards, it was really great. And I was comfortable. I little kitchen. It really had all the basics. So it was nice. Like I said, it's a shift in thinking and, unreliable electricity, things of that nature.
What about internet?
Sporadic internet.
Okay.
Here and there. That was one of those, you kind of relied on the like the internet cafes.
Okay.
That was big there. Because even internet as a thing in 2011, I mean, it was kind of driving our lives then, but even still in the past 10 years, it's, even more, it's expanded. So yeah, what's that? I mean, like texting family, calling family was very limited, like once a week. That was the hardest part for me. Yeah. Because those who know me best know how close I am with my whole family. So that was the hardest part for me, was trying to like, no, I can't talk to them till Friday and it can only be for 10 minutes. That was the most difficult thing. Yeah. So that was, that was all part of the adjustment period for me.
Especially at the beginning.
Eventually I settled into it, but oh yeah, for sure. And that was all, it all settled in eventually. And you get used to it, but yeah, definitely takes some time, and something that if I were by myself would have been, even harder.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Mm-hmm. How many students were there at that school?
I would say, I'm trying to think, because every morning we had to be up at 6:30 in the morning to go to mass or service, and all the students lived there and they all had to be there. And so I would say in the full chapel, full house, it was probably maybe like 700 or 800 kids.
Okay.
700 or 800 students. It's a very like quote unquote exclusive school. Like you have to have good grades, and the kids have to pay to be there and whatnot, or at least are supposed to. And a lot of them couldn't afford it, but they let them stay because you were working hard or whatever. But yeah, and it was a Catholic school, but nearly half of the students that went there were Muslim, mm-hmm. and they would wear the garb and everything like that to the mass and stuff. Like they had uniforms they had to wear at school, but because of the reputation of the school was so good that a lot of and there's a lot of Muslims that live in Tanzania, a lot of them were sending their daughters to that school.
Oh, that's interesting. And there wasn't any tension and no conflicts regarding that?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I think they just knew that was kind of like, attending a Catholic mass was just part of, like, I guess, kind of the sacrifice they had to make in order to be successful there, in order to to be able to go there. Just because quality education in that region of the world is not a given.
True.
So I think it was just something they were willing to do. And I mean, and on off hours they were allowed to wear their hijabs and whatnot. They weren't discouraged from that. It wasn't discriminatory or seen as such, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So
it wasn't like that's one of those, mm-hmm. They didn't see it that way.
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
Not at all.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I think it was required is because, I mean, like the whole school is run by nuns and priests. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, it was established by a priest. So, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how old were they? Okay, so it was a all girls school.
It was a secondary school. So it would be the equivalent in the States, and I'm assuming Canada as well, from like 6th grade through high school. So like junior high school to graduation. So like age 12 and up.
Okay. So that's secondary school here, pretty much. Okay. And you taught all grades.
All grades. Well, yes. mostly the English starter students. So mostly they would have like the pre first year, they called them. And those were like what would be like sixth grade, like 12, 13-year-old age level English beginner students. A lot of them already knew how to speak English because English is fairly prominent in Tanzania, but it was more just like what kind of fine-tuning grammar, things like that, learning about, it was more formal, parts of speech, things like that, that sort of thing.
Okay. Because official languages, it says English and Swahili, but the national language, quote unquote, is Swahili.
Yes. Yeah. Which is the coolest language in the world. I love it.
Okay. Well, yeah. I thought it was only spoken in Tanzania, but it turns out to be spoken in a few countries in Africa.
It is, and I think there's like variants of it because there's a lot of like Kenyan Swahili and Tanzanian Swahili. It's it's a dialect thing, kind of like English, Canadian English, British
like
English,
Swiss German, or
exactly. Yeah, just a little. Okay, like a good example would be like Hakuna Matata, which everybody knows from The Lion King. It's something they say all the time in Kenya, but you never hear that in Tanzania. They don't even you would say that in Tanzania, they wouldn't know what the hell you were talking about.
Oh, okay, that much of a difference. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. And there's no clicking either. That's a
All right, so we're back. We had a little glitch, but nothing was lost, so no worries.
Thank goodness.
Roger that. You were mentioning, Josh, the lack of clicking.
Yes,
so please.
We were talking on the subject of clicking in Swahili, yes. and the fact that in Swahili there is actually no clicking. That's a misconception. There are some African languages that do click, but Swahili is not one of them.
Okay,
and that was pretty much all I had to say on that.
Okay, but I guess you probably, I don't want to answer for you, but did you have to take any language classes like in Swahili, or you picked it up along the way?
I just picked it up, yeah. Because English as an official language of Tanzania, it wasn't too much of a concern. But yeah, no, you just kind of pick things up as you go. And I forgot the overwhelming majority of what I learned because it's been 10 years, but yeah.
Yeah. And there is not exactly a big Tanzanian community in Buffalo as well.
No, not exactly. Or anywhere in the States for that matter.
True. So if you were running errands, you would speak to other people in English and that was fine, no problem?
Yeah, for the most part. In those situations, we didn't tend to put ourselves in those situations without somebody who knew the language anyway.
Okay.
Because you couldn't get to anywhere to buy food or anything without driving like 20 minutes. Because we were in like the mountains of Tanzania. Like we were really isolated, like back hills. Like to get to like the closest town, which was Lushoto, we had to drive. Okay, if you're driving out of the campus, you're basically spending 10 minutes kind of driving in a circle going down a hill. And it's actually kind of terrifying because like there's a cliff on the side of the car as you're driving down, like literally. And you're on there for like 10 minutes. So we couldn't really go anywhere without somebody that knew, unless you take a bus, but we weren't really that comfortable doing that on our own.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Were you warned about safety concerns when you arrived, or?
Yes. And this is, I think, where maybe the biggest conflict came in with myself and my travel companion. Just because our one big difference is that I think I was over concerned about those things and she was under concerned about those things. Which is why I kind of wanted a companion whenever we went places. But like the first day we were in Nairobi, she went for a jog all by herself in a like a pink tank top and I'm like, you are like out of your mind. What are you doing? Say it'll be fine. She was fine. Like she did it. I'm just imagine a tiny little American girl going for a jog with her earbuds through Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's.
I'm gonna send her this. Right?
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit.
So that kind of exemplifies our disconnect in that regard. But yeah, it was interesting to see, like, there were some situations, there's a lot of people there. As soon as they know that, first of all, they assume anybody who's white, they automatically do assume that you're American. We met a group of Canadians when we were there who actually went on a safari with us, and they just assumed we were all American. A, that we were all American. B, that we just basically had like money falling out of our ears, essentially. You know what I mean? And which is both funny and sad, because I mean, there's the poverty is just insane. But it's kind of that interesting perception. There, in another situation, we were kind of, because I had a book bag, we were told, wear your book bag backwards so that you can kind of in front of you, so that people don't like try and pickpocket, and that was like, oh, okay, stuff like that was the biggest thing. But it was, most of that honestly was when we were in like the city of Nairobi, not so much like when we were at the school and kind of in the, in the more rural areas. There was really none of that.
Okay. And in Tanzania, you mentioned the name of the city closest to the school. It started with an L, I think.
Lushoto, Lushoto.
And was it a big city, or
it wasn't even really a city. It was more like a town.
Okay.
It'd be kind of like considered like maybe like what a suburb would be.
Okay.
It's that same idea. I mean, slightly more developed than where we were, but it was definitely not like a big city. It was all air markets and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it would have been better had the school been in the middle of a city. You would have been able to explore.
Yes, and possibly, yes. I mean, there was a lot of interesting things kind of within our reach still. And we did take a couple weekend trips to like the coast and places on the water and things like that were more like touristy urban places. And they were fun, but I didn't enjoy that quite as much because there was so much going on. It wasn't always relaxing because there was so much happening. I almost preferred to be in our little bubble.
Yeah.
In some ways, yeah. And maybe that sounds, kind of like, like I'm being a stick in the mud, but
no,
but
in
such a foreign place, I'm always a little bit, you got to kind of balance things out. Yeah.
No, I understand completely. I would have probably done the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a level of safety that you get. Yeah.
Yes. And what about the education standard there? Like, for example, someone in grade 6 over there, how would it compare to someone in grade 6 in the US?
Well, that's a fascinating question, because this was eye-opening, because they learn a lot of the same things that we learn here as far as the curriculum, high school curriculum. I mean, I went in and observed a classroom where they were, dissecting a frog in a science class, and that's something that we would do,
Yeah.
So, I mean, the material wasn't really that much different. It seemed, and this was, like I said, very eye-opening for me, because it seemed like, because they were held to such a high standard, but what they're learning is not that different from what we learn over here. So that said a lot about, the difference in how we, not how we value education, but in just what's available to us and our expectations and standards.
True.
Yeah.
And I guess,
and I don't mean to interrupt. I should mention,
no,
I didn't mention that the first half of my program, I guess you could say, was the first half we actually were taught at the elementary portion, which we actually had to walk to. And then the second half was where we stayed right on campus and taught there. So that way we got kind of both worlds.
Okay.
Which was interesting. Yeah.
And so I guess you and your friend were probably the only white people there?
Well, myself and the priest were. Yeah, she's actually an Asian American.
Okay.
So that actually complicated her experience a little bit in some ways too.
Tell me more.
Just simply because I don't want to speak for her too much, because I know that her experience is kind of unique to her. But that's you very infrequently see a person of Asian heritage in that part of the world, and that was very
true.
Just in terms of like, for people who are native to Tanzania, that was a very kind of like shocking to them.
Yeah.
They didn't quite know how to address her, and you know what I mean. A lot of them were saying, "Oh, Chinese girl." They were kind of point to her, even in the streets, and then she would be like, "Actually, no, I'm Korean and American," but they didn't understand that. They don't have they didn't have the global context to be able to be like, "Oh, okay," and make that correction. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's not something that you can really take personally because they haven't learned about it. But it made it kind of an interesting experience for her, in a positive way, I'm sure, and for them too, because I mean, then they
learn something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ideally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you probably noticed it as well when you were with her walking around in the city.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny. It's interesting because, like I said, the priest who runs it has been living in Tanzania since like 1961. I think he's like, when we were there, he was 77, 78 years old, and he's still, strong as a bull.
Wow.
But, when he was taking us places and driving us around, we'd constantly hear the word Mzungu being thrown at us. And he's like, oh, you should listen to that here. You should get used to that word. And I was like, what does that mean? He said, well, that's what they call white people here. And I said, oh, that's interesting. He goes, it's not a term of endearment. I'll just tell you that much. I was like, okay.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
it's probably like a gaijin in Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, similar. Yeah.
Or like a cracker or something.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Oh, geez.
It was one situation where when we were driving to the town and kids were throwing stones at our car and at the tires because and then saying that word while doing it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
Yep.
Did they do that every time they saw a white person driving, or? I'm
not sure because I don't really know how often they saw white people, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty wild.
I would have freaked out.
It must have been like kids of 11 or 12 just chucking rocks at the car and driving it. And he thought nothing of it. I'm sitting there and, in the passenger seat next to it. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, run for cover. And he's like, no, we're fine.
Okay. So was it just a small bunch of kids or like the entire neighborhood?
No, it was maybe like 3 or 4 kids.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like Escape from New York.
No, we weren't ambushed or anything. No.
Okay. All right. You didn't need Snake Plissken to bail you out. All right.
Not that time.
Okay, good. Then we could zoom out and back with hindsight. What do you wish you had known before you got on the plane to Tanzania?
Wow. I wish I had known, probably for one thing, a little bit more Swahili. And I think I wish I would have known, as incredible as the experience was, it was by the end of it, I was definitely ready to come home. I wish I had kind of known how long I would be there.
You didn't know?
Well, I did, but I didn't. I wish I had known how long it was going to feel, I guess you could say.
Okay.
It's a better way of wording it. And I would go again. I would go again to visit, but I would probably do no more than 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's, I mean, it sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm not. It's just you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, where your body kind of starts to be like, living out of a suitcase. After a few months of doing that, it does start to wear you down.
Yeah. Especially if I'm gonna sound like such a prick, but especially if I'm gonna use air quotes, if the standard of living is not what you're used to, that makes it even more difficult.
Right. I mean, it's very humbling and very sobering to you know what I mean? And it makes me, makes anybody realize, I guess we are very spoiled in what we have, and we're very, yes. I mean, I didn't have I had to learn how to wash clothes by hand, and I did it wrong the first month. Like I didn't even I just dumped detergent on it and then just let it dry. I never rinsed it out or anything. And I'm like, why are my clothes all like
whoops
about to break? And then my friend was like, did you rinse them? Like, oh yeah, we're supposed to do that. Like little things like that, and taking a shower was just you just dump a bucket of water on your head and scrub, and then that's it. Yeah.
Didn't have any running water, but like faucets, but like no showers.
No shower. No, there was like kind of like a not fully functional bathtub, and that's about it.
Okay.
And no shower head or anything like that. So, I would bathe maybe twice a week.
Okay.
On a good week, and then that's all it was you just pour water over yourself.
Which period of the year did you go there? Was it?
It was in fall.
Their fall. Okay.
No, our fall. So
Okay.
I was there till almost Christmas.
So, okay, so their spring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the climate?
The climate for the most part was good. Where we were, because we were in the mountains, it had a tendency to be a little bit colder than a lot of the countries. So, I mean, you'd wake up in the morning, it was usually like lower 40s.
Okay.
That's in Fahrenheit.
Yeah. So that's about like less than 10 Celsius.
I would say maybe like 5 to 10 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
And then it would warm up a little bit, maybe to closer to, 18 to 20.
Oh, okay.
By the end of the day, but then the temperature would drop again. That was pretty much every day, but the weather was reliably sunny for the most part.
Oh,
so
that helps.
Mm-hmm. You'd maybe get like it was kind of reminded me a little bit of Florida in the climate, because you'd get like that one rainfall a day, like one like soaking rain during the day, just one time, and then the rest of the day it would be just very pleasant.
So, how long ahead did you know that you were going there?
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. One of the reasons I decided to concentrate in ESL was because I wanted to do things like that.
Okay.
And I knew that they had like different travel programs through my school, so that was kind of always on my radar. That specific one, it wasn't until I was talking to my friend who went the year before. She went by herself. She was kind of like the first person to do that program. That kind of like planted the seed of, oh, that sounds really cool. And it's such an unusual place,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that was kind of where I decided, and then going through the motions, and yeah.
So 1 year, more or less.
Basically. Yeah. Like about a year-ish.
Okay.
And then like the prep work and everything like that, getting the shots, doing all the paperwork, getting visas, passport, all that stuff. That's a several month process. So, yeah.
You mentioned other destinations. Which other choices did you have?
There was, oh gosh, I don't even remember. There was somewhere that was really boring that didn't interest me. I think
now I'm curious.
It was Wales. And actually, now that I'm looking back on it, I would have loved to have done that. But at the time, I'm like, okay, sure, but Tanzania is so different,
True.
I think, if I were to go back and do it again, I may have chosen Wales over Tanzania. But
I agree. I mean, the weather, okay, but you can always, skip to Ireland.
Yeah, which I actually did on the way home. That was one of the places I stopped at. But yeah,
okay, so we can talk about that in a little bit.
It was a bad experience there, but nothing to do with Ireland itself. It's just the situation regarding my return home was a very crazy story, but we'll get to that. Okay,
I'll write that down. So, which other places did you have the option?
There was Wales. There was only one other place. It was oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. It was such a long time ago. Was
it in Europe?
It was. I want to say maybe Ukraine.
Oh,
it was Eastern European somewhere. Yeah, I think that might be where it was. I'm gonna have to dig out all my files and figure it out, because it's been such a long time.
Well, I mean, Ukraine would have been pretty good too, as long as it wasn't during
they've had some issues.
But I think that was more recent. I think it was like 2015 maybe, almost right, not a civil war, but a lot of action.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually had a few students, just a couple, not a lot, a couple students from Ukraine that have come over, kind of to skim. They have been like the most studious, like focused students I've ever imagined, like unbelievable, like mind-blowingly. So like picked up English like it was nothing, and it's just amazing. Yeah.
And were they quote unquote political refugees, or?
I think so. They're not allowed to really talk about it. We're not supposed to ask them.
Still?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a whole
weird
thing. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Like we're not supposed. I mean, you can, like, if they volunteer the information, that's fine. And some of them will, some of them won't. But it's not really encouraged to ask them, because you never know what kind of trauma that might bring up and whatnot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And that we don't want to agitate or anything like that. So.
And maybe they still have family there, and if they tell you and like you slip up and say something on Facebook regarding that,
right. Oh yeah, that's a huge liability.
That can go.
Yeah, that's not good at all. Mm-hmm.
That's true. Okay, so yeah, you mentioned something happened on the way back, but first, I had another question, but I haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what a typical day over there was like?
Sure.
Like your schedule?
The first half of my placement was much more interesting than the second half, because the first half is where I was teaching the primary students, and we actually had to like go somewhere. So every morning, like I said, 6:30, we were in mass. We were expected to be there. Every student was expected to be there, every teacher. And, we all have our own issues with religion in the Catholic Church and whatnot. But that whole thing looks very differently in Africa. A lot of the baggage that we have about Catholicism here, it just doesn't really exist there because it's just a different society. But But as far as that goes, like I used to actually, it was one of my favorite parts of the day because most of it was music, and it was some of the most glorious, like soul satisfying singing and music I've ever heard in my life. Like it just, when you have the sound of like 800 young people singing at the top of their lungs, it just, the first time I heard it, I was like, my jaw fell to the floor. I got chills. Like I still get chills thinking about it. It was just incredible. And every morning, that's how you started your day, was with this music in this church. And like, it was just unbelievable. So really, it was not hard getting up early when you knew that that you were going to be experiencing something like that. And then, after that, there was like a school song, and then they would do the Tanzanian national anthem and everything like that. Then you'd go to breakfast. Everybody had breakfast together as well, which was really nice. And then right after that, we would have to walk to the elementary school. So it was about maybe like a 20-minute walk every day. You had to go off the campus, and it was tough to remember the trail because there weren't a lot of landmarks. It was mostly just grass. And okay, I remember this little pond here. You have to go that way to get there. And I remember seeing this house in the distance and this person's garden. And okay, here's the school. So it took us about 20 minutes to get there. And then I had 3 sections of English that I taught to students of classrooms of about 50 kids each in the elementary, which is an enormous class size. That's a lot. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. But behavior is not an issue. The classroom management was nothing, because they would all just stand up when you walk in the room and wouldn't sit down until you told them to. Like that was tough too to get used to, because I'm like, everybody's saying good morning to me and standing up, and it was just awkward because I'm used to being a little bit more relaxed with the kids, and it just, that wasn't my style.
Yeah, you probably felt like a drill sergeant or something.
I did, yeah. And I'm like, this is really awkward, but but it was. I mean, they were all like incredibly sweet, and they were all there for a reason, because they wanted to learn, so they worked really, really hard.
Yeah, they were motivated.
Yeah. So then I would do that. We would all have lunch together again at the same. And the whole lunch thing was really interesting too, with the, just the food that they served was not what I was used to. So that took some time to get used to as well. But
yeah, that's another section in itself. Tell us a little bit more if you want.
It's a lot of, they grow most of their own food. The lunch every day was like a tortilla shell, with an avocado and some beans. And this kind of like, I'm not even sure what it's called. It was this kind of like, it was almost like a spongy bread sort of thing.
Okay. And
I wasn't like a super fan. It looked like mashed potatoes, but it was actually like a spongy bread. And you kind of you wrap it all in the tortilla. And that was what you got every single day. That was your lunch.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. It was good. You have to like avocado and things like that. But yeah, it was interesting. And the kids usually just got almost like a porridge kind of thing with mostly just like beans and vegetables in it.
Okay.
Which it did not look appetizing in the slightest, but they seemed to like it.
And did you, I'm supposing that you lost a bit of weight. Like not that you're fat, but like with that diet, everybody would lose weight. Well,
here's the thing though. Okay. That was our lunch, but our dinners were always pretty like extra.
Oh, okay.
They fed those nuns pretty good. The cook Rosie is a sweet lady, and she went all out for those guys, for the nuns and everybody. So she did a good job, making up for it in the dinner time.
Okay. So you turned out okay. You didn't starve.
No,
okay.
No, definitely not. And the kids too were fed like royalty.
Okay.
At dinner nice. Anyway. So yeah.
All right. And did you Okay, so what you mentioned brought a few more questions in my mind. So the typical school day would finish at what time?
Well, for the secondary school, it was, it was a boarding school, so there were classes going on till late. I actually, for the secondary school, I taught an evening class. It was 7 to 8:30 for English. So my day ended late when for the second half. But for the primary school, it ended about 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Which is a little bit later than here, but but that's about, because they start a little bit later there too. Like the school day started at like 9:30. By the time they have mass and everything and walk to school and get their uniforms on and everything, you're looking at about 9:30.
Okay. And what about in the evening? Were you left to your own devices pretty much, or?
Pretty much, yeah. For the most part, we didn't have like a TV or anything, but we did have our laptops, and so thankfully we had downloaded like a couple shows and movies before we left, and so that was kind of our entertainment.
Probably had them memorized.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then most of them were garbage. Like we watched some of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Okay.
And we had and she bought like a Monopoly game. She packed one in her suitcase, so we did that occasionally, stuff like that. By the time we get back after dinner and everything like that, it was like 9 o'clock. We're both exhausted. Have to be up at 6:30. So yeah, we didn't entertain ourselves too much, but yeah, books was another thing. I read a lot of books there too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was my next question, actually. When it came to entertainment, okay, so you said no TV anywhere in the school, I suppose, or maybe just for the staff?
The only TV that I remember seeing was, so in the kind of like the staff hall, I guess, if you will, where we had dinner. It looks kind of like a house. There was like the dining room, and then next to was a big living room. There was just a little tiny kind of like, a 90s style TV there. And like the big thing, the nuns were always watching. Like in Tanzania, it's a big thing to film your wedding and put it and broadcast it on television. If you get married, like you're expected to have like a camera crew there, and then they will televise your wedding. Well, they were obsessed with watching these weddings, and they would get so into it. And that was just like a big thing for them. Like before dinner, after dinner, they would be watching these weddings on TV. It was really funny.
And like just normal people?
Yeah, just everyday people. Yeah. And they would, it was like watching a reality show for them in a lot of ways. And they got the biggest kick out of it.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's because maybe they're like living vicariously through them, because as nuns, you can't do that, but they loved it. It was great.
Wow. Wow. So you mentioned earlier getting your shots before, flying there and all that. Did you have any health issues over there?
No, the only thing that I kind of experienced was, I think it was a dietary thing. The first couple weeks, I think my body just wasn't used to eating food like that and food cooked in that specific way. So I did have some issues, like some digestive struggles the first couple weeks. And a lot of like indigestion and things of that nature. But it was just more of just like getting used to it, adapting problem.
I'm guessing this might sound like a really stupid question, but I'm guessing tap water over there is probably not that good for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And for North American people, it's probably not a good idea to drink tap
don't
water
do that.
over there. Yeah,
definitely don't do that. Yeah.
Okay.
You can boil it, and we did do that a lot. But yeah, no, there was always bottled water, which is good that there was so much available.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, it would have been boiling all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not ideal.
Malaria is still a huge problem there. And so we had the whole pill regimen. We had to start, I don't remember exactly. I think we had to start a week before we left. We had to start taking them daily. Then after we came back, I think there was another 2 weeks we had to take them. Because I remember taking them into New Year's, because I got back home like a week before Christmas. And so maybe it was 2 or 3 weeks after we had to continue taking them. Okay. So it was kind of interesting. They're big old horse pills.
Okay. Never had to take those. What about lifestyle over there in general? What were there any customs that really took you by surprise? Like the wedding thing, for example?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest one. Wow. I think I found just the lifestyle of people just incredibly moving. And as far as like, I mean, most people like basically none of the houses had TVs. And so like there were a couple times that we went to like family members of people who work there. So the teachers that work there that are hired by that school, they do all live on that campus because they all come from like high level poverty situations. And so the school covers their room and board if they work there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember just going to it wasn't a few, I think it was two houses of faculty members that I kind of became friends with, and I was there, and they were just like, oh yeah, come hang out with our family, and just seeing, you go to these out there, they're raising pigs, raising chickens, raising rabbits. I hate to say, raising rabbits, all for food. But like their houses are basically just like a room with, like maybe one piece of, you can tell very old furniture, but basically, not much in terms of like a bed, like maybe one blanket, dirt like not even a floor, like just dirt, grass floor. But them treating you like you were like the king of the world. You know what I mean? Like treating you as if you were like a god coming into their house, giving you everything, giving you like the best tea you've ever tasted in your life, giving you like insisting that they take an egg from their chicken and, making you something out like, and I was speechless. It just really put so many things in perspective for me. And just kind of really just made me reconsider how I was living my life and how I treated people, and how just, it was just very, very a sobering experience for me. That, there are people in the world that are genuinely good people and will just do anything for anybody in any situation. That doesn't really answer your question, but that was probably like, as far as culture, to me, I think that speaks to the culture, because I mean, for every situation where you have, a kid who's throwing stones at your car, you have 10 families that, treat these visitors and treat these outsiders like, like they're the best, the most important people in the world. And I don't feel I deserve to be treated like that, but just seeing, just the culture of just being content with what you have, and just appreciating every little thing. And it's really hokey and corny, but that's
true,
how I
still
feel. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't been to many, I hate using that word, but like poor countries, quote unquote. But I think the one that sticks in my mind still is Turkey. Maybe 7 years ago. And I remember we were in Istanbul, and every morning, every day, we would see this little girl playing an accordion all day. And at some point, we went to see the whirling dervishes. Is that the English name? Yeah, that's it. And we left at like 9 p.m. or something, and she was still there playing. And another day, like a few days later, I wanted to go see a museum early in the day. So I was out and about at like 7:30 in the morning, maybe, or
was
8.
It the Blue Mosque?
No, it wasn't. It was the military museum.
Oh,
and I wanted to go by foot. So it was I walked for a while. Great museum. But I was out and about at maybe 7:30, and she was there.
Jeez Louise.
And
man,
it blew my mind. And I know, that
the resilience is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And that I could have taken like a wad of lira in Turkey and, dropped it into her little box in front of her, and it wouldn't have changed a thing at the end of the day,
Yep.
Oh yeah. That bummed me out so much.
Yeah. Wow. It really, I'm glad you mentioned Istanbul, because that was one of the places I went to on my way back. And I can kind of see what you're talking about. Like I mean, it's a gorgeous city. Istanbul's gorgeous. It's very clean. It's very put together, but there's this there's little things, like you said, on like that girl on the corner, that kind of like, oh, everything is not quite as it seems, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also It's a good thing that you mentioned that. It's really clean, and it's there are 13 million people, I think, living there.
Yeah.
It's really, it is shockingly clean for how many people live there.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
It's really a gorgeous city. But
it's funny. That was another one of the places that I kind of was a trooper and kind of just roughed it all by myself, because that's where my friend and I, we kind of split, because she had to get her flight right away, but I didn't have to get my flight till like the next morning. So I was like, I can just spend the day here, which is what I did. So, and so I kind of just took it upon myself to roam the city all by myself. And it was funny in that I could kind of, if by looking at me, I could kind of pass for almost any nationality, I think. A lot of people. And so people just assumed I was Turkish, and people would be coming up to me and asking me, well, like, what time is it? Questions like that in Turkish. I was like,
yeah, sorry.
Right. And they would just assume that I was Turkish, think nothing of it. And it was just kind of funny that way. And I went to a Turkish Burger King. That was my big, big exciting moment.
Okay. No, I mean, it's like in Pulp Fiction, you notice the little differences in those situations. So what did you think of the Turkish Burger King?
It was almost the same as the American one.
Okay.
just had to order a Turkish Whopper.
and I'm going to make a really dumb joke. Was it called like a burger caliphate or something?
I don't even remember. I just remember kind of like I had to like point at this. I was like, Whopper, like using one word and she's whatever many lira, and I just put money on the counter, and thankfully it was enough, and she gave me change.
Nice.
And then I called my dad while I was eating it.
Oh, yeah. All
hey,
right.
by the way, I'm in Istanbul right now. This is really fun.
Nice. Yeah, illustrated menus are a lifesaver when you're in a country like this, because we went to I guess it was a touristy place, but maybe not that much, because we heard like plenty of Turkish spoken around us, but the guy still had the illustrated menu, and it helped a great deal, because I don't. I guess I'm not super adventurous when it comes to food when I'm traveling. I mean,
you have to be careful.
I've been to McDonald's a couple times, but as much as possible, I avoid it.
Yeah, you just never know.
But I mean, like, why go to a McDonald's when you have McDonald's in your home city?
More local flavor. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But still, it's nice to notice those little differences, because I think was it in Paris that they serve beer and wine in McDonald's or something like that?
That sounds right. That's one city I haven't been to, is Paris, but yeah. Oh, that sounds right. Never been to France. Yeah.
you need to get on that
someday. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So on the way back. So there was Istanbul on the way back. Tell us more.
Yep. So we had kind of planned because it was so close to Christmas. So at the time, when I was over there, my cousin was stationed in the U.S. military base in Heidelberg, Germany, with his whole family, like his two kids, his wife. I hadn't seen him since his wedding. I was in his wedding party and everything like that. So we had been close. I'm like, we're going to go visit him there. And so my mom and I had planned. When I was coming back, we made a plan that she was going to come over. We were all going to meet in Germany and spend a week there, which we did, and it was nice. Really, really fun. It was really nice. It was almost like a little family reunion. And we stayed right at his little apartment on the military base. My mom and I took a weekend trip to Austria. It was amazing, incredible city and country. We went to Salzburg, blah, 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 did all that, whatever. So
nice.
We were there for a week. We were leaving. I can't remember what day of the week it was.
Sorry. Which army base was it in Germany?
It was Heidelberg.
I didn't know that they had a army base there. I mean, Heidelberg, I've been there. Gorgeous city. The castle is amazing.
Yes.
Okay. And in Austria, okay, so you went to Salzburg. Did you go into elsewhere in Austria as well?
No, just we only had like 2 days, so we kind of just stuck to Salzburg because it was the closest one to the border and by where we had to be.
Okay.
So and we did like we did like a road trip another kind of funny story too. When we were doing we all took a road trip up to Berlin, which is like kind of on the other side of the country. So we all got in the car and everything. Halfway there, the car broke down halfway to Berlin. And so we had to stop at just a local place and try and figure out, get it fixed and whatnot. So we get into the first car shop we found, and my cousin goes in and he goes, sprechen Sie English, whatever. And the lady at the front office goes, no English, didn't understand. So we go, he's in the waiting room. Not 2 minutes later, she answers the phone. She starts speaking perfect English to the perfect person who's on the other side of the phone. I'm like, are you frigging kidding me?
That sucks.
Yeah. So we're like, well, so finally we were able to kind of like snag down somebody in that same office who was able to figure out the car problem. We got it fixed and whatever. But
something popped into my mind. Was there any kind of identification on the car that it was from an army base?
I don't remember. There had to have been. There must have been, because I don't think you can keep your car there without that.
If I had to guess, I would say maybe that's why she gave you some.
Could be, but I don't know that she would have known, because she was in the office. You know what I mean?
Okay,
the car was outside.
Okay, but that's possible.
Yeah, but that's a good call though on that. It was just one of those kind of like eye rolling moments. Like, really?
Oh, for sure.
Really? Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, but please, I interrupted. Please continue.
Oh no, you're fine. So it was a nice week. I think we got back Saturday, and then we had to leave Sunday morning. The following morning, we had to leave early. It had to be at the Hamburg. I say Hamburg because there's a Hamburg, New York that I lived right next to. For all my Hamburg Airport by we had to leave at 10 a.m. So we had to be there bright and early. So we took the train to get there to Salzburg, and then we had to take the train back. It's about a 5-hour train ride, give or take. And in Europe they stop all the time and let people on and off as they're going through. So all is fine, all is good. We're going on our trip back home, getting ready to go. I'm just sitting there in the cabin reading, and people come in and out. And I think it was like maybe the third stop. These two older ladies come into our cabin and said that they have cookies. They're giving us cookies. Very, very nice ladies. There's a language barrier, but they were still very nice. And they were on there for a while because it was like a 5-hour trip. And so at the second last stop before we had to get off, they got off. We survived and everything like that. And so we finally get to our destination. We get off the train. So backtrack a little bit. When you get onto the train, it's kind of like an airplane. You have like the overhead compartment where you put all your baggage, but it's not. You don't get your own individual one. It doesn't snap and close. It's just like all a big shelf.
Yes.
So I get up to go to my destination. I'm looking and I brought a big ass book bag with me. And I'm reaching back there. I'm like, my book bag. There's a book bag here, but this one is a floral print, and mine was not. Mine was just like a gray color. And I'm like looking. I'm like, then I get on like my tiptoes, trying to look up and see if I could find. It's not there. It's not there. There's just this one book bag there that's not mine. And then in my book bag is my passport, is my computer, is my wallet, is all my money. Everything is in there. And it's gone. And I had to be at the airport the next morning to go back home. So
Jesus.
Yeah. So I kind of course, then
panicked.
The panic attack hits almost instantaneously. And my poor mom also too. We were both in the throes of an anxiety meltdown. I tried to talk to the people, the ticket taker, tell them what happened. Didn't want to hear it. Tell the people at the counter, not their problem. Like they just didn't. And so my cousin is at the station waiting to pick us up, drive us home. And I'm explaining to him, I'm like, my book bag's gone. I don't know what to do. I have to, panicking, freaking out. And then, of course, he's very annoyed by this whole thing, as anybody would be. So we have no choice but to drive home and figure out what we're going to be doing about the situation. So we get on Google, look what to do, try and figure everything out, make a couple phone calls. So we were told that we had to be at the embassy, the U.S. embassy in the Hamburg airport the next morning, like when they first opened, which was like 6 a.m. So we're like, okay, we're just going to do that. So we go to the Hamburg airport bright and early. looking for the embassy. There's no U.S. embassy in the Hamburg airport.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like a consulate because
exactly.
The embassy is in the capital, but
right. It was. I think it was like a language barrier. Like my cousin kept saying embassy, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, so of course we didn't find it anywhere. We're literally like walking laps around the airport trying to find something like this.
When you mentioned that, I was like, I've never heard of a U.S. consulate in an airport. That's odd.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't make any sense. So after about 3 laps of the airport, we're like, well, this isn't going to do any good. Let's just go to the airline of where, we have to check in and see what we can do. Mm-hmm. So thankfully I did that. I standing there was probably like a half hour, explained my whole situation to the lady at the counter. She's very nice about it. She gave me this giant stack of papers I had to sign, all these forms, everything like that. And then she goes off, does something, comes back a few minutes later. She said, okay, you should be all set. She said, I had a layover in Dublin in Ireland. And said, when you get there, like, make sure that you show everybody this card that I'm going to give you. She said, this is my name. This is my number. And if anybody questions you, give them this. Tell them to talk to me. I was like, okay. Because I didn't have a passport. What else could you do? And right after that, I almost didn't get through German customs to get on the plane. Like they gave me such a hard time. I'm like, the lady's right over there. She can tell you what. And I'm looking at my mom, like on the other side, like just sitting there waiting for me, like, waving at me. And I'm like shrugging my shoulders. I'm trying. Like, bon voyage. If I need to become a citizen, like, I guess I have no choice.
Jesus.
But finally she let me through. I got to Ireland. I was like kept in like an isolation room in the back.
Okay.
So that they could kind of, interrogate me. What's my business here? What, everything like that. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. That was my experience in Ireland. Wow. And so they let me on the plane. I fly home. I breathe a sigh of relief. I make it. Really bummed that I lost all my stuff, computer, money, wallet, the whole 9 yards. It's all gone. And this is right before Christmas. So fast forward till about mid-January.
Okay.
I kind of put this all past me. I canceled the passport, got new credit cards, the whole deal. I get an email from this transportation company in Europe. And he's like, hi, my name is whatever. And I'm looking for somebody named Joshua Fitzgerald because I found this email address in this bag that I think might be yours. And I was like, yes, that is mine. What happened? She said, well, it was returned to us because it was accidentally taken on a recent trip going to Austria.
Oh my God.
And she's like, send me your address and I will mail it to you. And I did. And about 3 weeks later, I got it back. Everything was still there. My computer was still there. My money was there. My passport was there. And a handwritten letter from the old lady who took it accidentally, like giving my sincerest apologies. Like, I'm so sorry that this happened, that any inconvenience this might have caused you. Please, I hope that you are well and that everything worked out okay. And I still have the letter. It was like the nicest thing, but I could
probably had it framed.
Yeah, pretty. I actually have it in a folder.
There you go.
Yeah, it was just unbelievable. Everything was still like everything was untouched.
Wow, that was your Christmas gift right there.
That was my belated Christmas gift. Yeah, and then the cherry on top was the follow-up email. So I sent the woman who had sent me the initial email another one saying, thank you, I really appreciate it. This was, thank you for everything you did to help me. And she replied back, oh, you're very welcome. And if you would like to get to know me on a more personal level, here's my Facebook account.
All right.
So it ended with her hitting on me. So that was...
Yes. All right.
So it all came full circle.
Yeah. Another Christmas gift, I guess.
I guess.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So the lessons to learn from this, always keep your passport on your person.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. And
take a picture of your passport as well, just in case. That's what I do. And if possible, keep your eyes on your suitcase.
Yes. Even for extended train trips.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Like the overhead compartment. Sometimes you cannot really put the suitcase in line of sight. And it annoys the shit out of me every time I have to put it like back of the train.
Right. Because it's not within your reach. Yeah,
exactly. And every time that happens, I get a little nervous. You turn your back, you turn your head, 10 times.
That was probably a very cringy story for you to hear.
When you mentioned the passport, I did cringe.
Yeah. I kind of cringe telling the story. Yeah.
Computer. Okay, of course, you can't, carry it under your arm all the time.
Right.
That's normal.
Right.
But passport. If I walk around, I'll kind of, put my hand on my leg, just and brush it by, so I know it's there.
Yeah.
That and the phone. It's like OCD almost now.
Right. Yeah. So lesson learned, and it's funny because like you always think about people stealing things and people trying to shift you out of things or whatever. You never really think about freak accidents like that.
That's true.
That was what made it kind of interesting. And yeah,
they probably assumed it was gone and it would have been the normal reaction for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like when it comes to, don't take that in a bad way, but like dumb traveler mistakes, I did forget my passport in a hotel safe. And that was 2 years ago, actually. 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. Because I didn't do my usual routine. It was, so I left the passport there in the hotel. So I was on the train from Dortmund to maybe Bielefeld. But I realized midway on the train, I was like, fuck, I left my passport in the safe. And then I called the hotel. I had my phone still, at least. Called the hotel. Did you find a passport in room whatever? Yes, we did.
Oh.
And then I asked, okay, is it possible to send it like UPS to my Airbnb in Berlin? And she started stalling. And then she doesn't want the liability in case, it doesn't make it to Berlin. So I was like, okay, hang on to it. I got off the train, then one on another train the other way.
Oh no!
Got my.
God!
The distances weren't really crazy, so I lost maybe 3 hours total.
I got a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot worse. And then I got it back, and then I was supposed to meet a friend in the other city. So I told her the story. She had a good laugh at my expense, fully deserved. Because it was the first time I forgot my passport anywhere. Wow,
that's a good track record then, to be traveling that much. And
I think it is. I like to think that it is.
I do, and I think that I at least I want to think it does. I know we have a lot of people that travel that's in our group, and so I could completely be wrong in making a complete ass of myself with that story. But I like to think that it does happen to everybody at least once, something similar to that, like some kind of just, when you're traveling, I mean, there's so many things to remember. I'm not trying to make excuses for myself, but I do think that it does happen to most people.
Absolutely. And it's even more difficult to have your routine because you're in different places, in different situations. And sometimes, I never put my stuff in a safe because I rarely stay in hotels.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I forgot my passport there.
Because it's out of your norm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's something to remember for next time.
My other big one was when my brother was living in Houston. This one's just more funny. And we were going through the security check, and you have to take out all the technology that you have out of your bag. And I put my iPad on the in the carrier and went through and everything like that. Packed on my bag, left my iPad sitting there. I had no idea. And then it's about 5 minutes later, an announcement comes on for the whole airport to hear. It's like, if there is a Joshua Fitzgerald in the airport, we have your iPad. Please report to which I'm glad they did that. But at the same time, like now every single person in this airport is going to know that they're going to, if people see me scrambling to go over to the to the airline, they're going to be like, oh, that's that asshole that forgot his iPad.
That's the guy.
Right.
How did they know it was you? Did you have like a label somewhere?
Yeah. If you turn it on and if you hold like, there's a way that if you turn it on, it'll say like Joshua Fitzgerald's iPad. There's like an identification thing on there. And I guess that people knew to do that. Yeah.
Okay. I should know, but I guess I didn't. I didn't know
I don't
that.
know. Maybe they don't do it anymore, but I think if you go, okay, yeah, I'm not sure that I had like a security code or anything. Cause if you go to settings, like if I went to my settings and it has my name right there.
Yeah, but it's unlocked. You had
Right.
to
I didn't
unlock
have
it.
like a security lock on it. I
Oh.
must not have at the time. I mean, I'm
That's
not sure now.
That's another rookie mistake right there.
Right. Usually that's something because I always have one with my phone. Now you got me curious. Let me see here. No, because then Siri comes up. Huh. Anyway.
That's okay.
I know there's a way to do it, but
well,
it was still a funny moment.
The important thing is you got it back. That's what matters.
Yeah,
nice.
And the lady at the desk was definitely making fun of me when I went to pick it up.
Lesson learned, I guess.
Yep.